Here we are, the first edition of the Weekend Game Guy Debrief. Basically, in every debrief, I'm going to talk about whatever game I've just finished a playthrough for. It's going to work like this. I'm going to talk about different aspects of the game, just like any other review, but I'm going to apply a grade to each one of those aspects, and in the final report, I'll give you an overall grade. So let's jump right into it. As many of you know, I just finished Red Faction for the PC. Red Faction is a first-person shooter that was released in 2001 for the PC and the PlayStation 2. It eventually found its way to other platforms, including Mac and, of all things, the N-Gage. It was developed by Volition and it was published by THQ. Here's the plot, which was obviously inspired by Total Recall. The year is 2075. The Ultra Corporation is running a mining operation on Mars. The living conditions for miners suck at best, and other miners are getting taken out by an incurable disease known simply as the Plague. You follow Parker, a miner drawn in by Ultra's promise of a new life as a miner. Before you can say Quato, Parker finds himself at the forefront of a revolution. The game itself is pretty long, so there were several times that the story was actually what kept me playing rather than getting bored and quitting. The story is quite compelling. There's enough twists and turns to keep you engaged, except for at the very, very end. Overall, I dig the story, so I'm going to give it a B. Red Faction is an older game. It was released in 2001, and I have to remind myself of that a lot because the graphics themselves really haven't aged well. These graphics have that jagged, super polygon style to them. I remember when I first played this, how amazing I thought that looked. Things have changed. The game as it stands is displayed in a 4x3 format, but there's a way around that. There's a community-made patch called Pure Faction. Installing the patch opens up higher resolution. An interesting thing to note is that playing this older title on new hardware causes some issues sometimes. I'm not sure if this is a problem with the game itself or with Pure Faction, but I encountered at least one glitch. In the sub bay before the underwater lab, when you attempt to launch the sub just explodes. Why does this happen? Well, it's all about frame rates apparently. If the frame rates of the game rise above a certain level, the game glitches out, and for whatever reason that causes the submarine to explode. Fortunately, with the help of Pure Faction, you can counteract that glitch. Basically, you go into the options screen and throttle back your frame rate. Basically, you set a cap, and then it can't go above that cap. When you do that, Bob's your uncle. It works just fine. While it's true that the graphics have not aged well, I'm not going to toss them in the junk pile. Another B. The cinematics in this game do their job. They convey the story during the in-between bits. Now, the game used in-game graphics rather than pre-rendered bullcrap. You know the deal, you know, the pre-rendered cutscenes that they always show in the box art and give you this false sense of, wow, this is going to be the most next-gen thing I've ever seen in my life. And you put it in and it's just a bunch of polygons. It looks like an Atari 2600 game. I usually like it when games use in-game graphics for cinematics. It avoids that bullcrap that I just talked about. Interestingly enough, I think that the cutscenes were the moments that I noticed the jagged graphics the most. As you watch some of the cutscenes, you'll notice a lot of jagged character models and choppy frame rates. It's entirely possible that some of the choppy frame rates were because of the screen capture software. Cinematics aren't bad, but they certainly aren't great.
Who knows? I won't be staying on Mars, that's for sure.
And tossing in that lackluster ending... See? The audio in this game is pretty good, but I don't feel like it's anything that you should write home about. The only reason I say that is that there was nothing sound effect wise that ever stood out to me. Basically everything I heard was typical of games of this type. As for the voice acting, well, I've definitely heard better. The delivery seems a little off to me. I feel like everything seems forced and unnatural, so C it is. Now the soundtrack, holy crap, the soundtrack is awesome. It's cinematic, it's huge, it's well orchestrated, it's awesome. The unfortunate fact is that during the playthrough I muted all of the music. I had to. Such is the nature of the tubes. But you gotta trust me, it's awesome, and the game itself is worth playing just to listen to that, so it's an A all the way. Controls. Controls are typical for an FPS game. It's a keyboard. It's a mouse. This is where the age-old argument of gamepad versus keyboard and mouse began, whatever. It's the console gamer versus the PC master race. I have to say this, I own both the PC and the PlayStation 2 versions of this game, and I get more than frustrated when playing with the gamepad on the PlayStation 2. And you also got to remind yourself, this is before the art of first-person shooter on a console with a gamepad was perfected. I mean, we've come a long way in terms of control schemes since then. But my leaning toward a PC over a console to play a first-person shooter is a personal preference. I've always preferred to play first-person shooters on a PC with a mouse and keyboard. But that being said, there are ways to use a gamepad with this game, specifically the Xbox 360 controller, which is PC compatible and works fantastically with most games. But as a side note, I haven't experimented with any of those methods for using a gamepad with this particular game. Maybe at some point later on I'll try to explore it and see how it works. So using classic and what I feel is the best way to play a first-person game on a computer, it's an A. Without a doubt, that's an A. All right, let's hit the gameplay. Overall, you're just looking at standard first-person shooter, point, shoot, bang, bang, action gameplay. However, the GeoMod engine does add another layer of gameplay dynamic. The GeoMod engine allows the user to modify the level. You can blast your own tunnels, circumvent doors by going through walls. The world is your oyster. When I first found this game in a Big Lots, I believe, way back when, I was pretty impressed and blown away with the idea of the GeoMod. I mean, to shoot things and blow my own tunnels and be able to do whatever I want was new. It was a brand new idea, and it was so fresh, and it was so different, and it was so very, very, very exciting to be part of something like that, to play something that different. So yeah, I loved it, and I was obsessed with like burrowing my own tunnels to other parts of the level and finding secret ways and all this stuff. But here's the deal. With the GeoMod, it starts out really cool. And yes, I will readily admit, it is a very cool idea. But the thing is, as the game progresses, you end up using it less and less. And to be entirely honest, I barely utilized it after the first few stages. To kind of go with the GeoMod, the game has included some pretty nice weapons. A healthy chunk of them are explosive in nature. That brings us to the fun of sticking mines to your enemies. Good times. Good times. There are some other great weapons, sniper rifles, precision rifles. Heck, even the pistol is great. I have to recommend that you stick with the precision weapons like the precision rifle, sniper rifle, or the rail driver. If you're feeling crazy, go with a rocket launcher. I had a tendency to try to steer clear of most of the automatic weapons. This is because of the shot spread pattern that the game uses. The spread is completely ridiculous, and you can barely hit anything. It's nearly impossible to hit a target without using dang near all of your ammunition. Favorite weapon is the rail driver. You see, the rail driver allows you to do two things. One, you get to see through walls. That comes in very handy. And two, you get to shoot through said walls and take out enemies. There is a downside. Sometimes you might look through a wall and think you're looking at an enemy and shoot someone you're supposed to. This happened to me at one point. I shot Hendrix through a wall and it sent me all the way back, and I hadn't saved up to that point, and it kind of screwed me up. But the rail driver is an incredibly strong weapon, and it can take almost anything out. The rail driver is even strong enough to take out hovercrafts. I guess that's what they are. Heck, I even shot one through a wall without seeing it. Probably one of the coolest accidental shots I've ever done. So gameplay is pretty standard. GeoMod is awesome, but it really wears thin. And the weapons are awesome with the exception of the automatic weapons. So gameplay is good, just not great. B. All right, the final thing I wanted to discuss is the multiplayer mode. When I first got this game, I think I ended up playing multiplayer mode more than the solo campaign, which is interesting because I never do that. Not now. I mean, multiplayer gaming for me is something I actually try to avoid more or less. So it's interesting to look back and think of games that I actually enjoyed playing multiplayer mode on. Playing it today really takes me back to the good old days of multiplayer gaming. Voice chat, it's like heaven. The game is pretty old, but I was pleasantly surprised to find that there is still a bit of a community playing the game. It's funny because you're going to run into a lot of the same players over and over and over again. And as best I can tell, there are still people that are making multiplayer maps for this game, and that's pretty impressive to me. It bears mentioning that I believe that in multiplayer mode is where the GeoMod engine shines the brightest. In the course of a match, a map will start out pristine and end up completely trashed. Sometimes it's by design. There will be hidden paths and power-ups that are only accessible by blowing holes through stuff. So much fun. Multiplayer mode is awesome and well worth playing. Look me up. I'll play a game with you. An A all the way. So let's look at the final report card. After looking at all the grades I gave the various aspects of each part I discussed, I assign them a numeric value. I take that numeric value, I calculate an average. Do you really care how I do this? I didn't think so. But once all the calculations were in, Red Faction gets a B. Red Faction is not the greatest game in the world, but it has a lot of nice aspects. The gameplay is solid, the soundtrack is awesome, and the multiplayer mode is a boatload of fun. Overall, it gets my personal recommendation. And now, the good news. I have a free Steam copy of Red Faction to give away. Subscriber or not, all you need to do is make a post using the hashtag #WGG on your preferred social media outlet. It can be anything. You can tell me I suck. You can tell me you love me. You can share my channel. You can share a video. You can post strange pictures. I don't care. As long as the hashtag is there, I'll be able to find you and keep a list of those people that are interested in getting a copy of the game. If you'd like and you want to help make my life a little bit easier, you can actually tag me in your post. My social media information will be down in the description. It will also be on the end card. And I'll shoot a message to the winner within 2 weeks of this video being posted on YouTube. Best of luck to you all. Well guys, that's it for the first debrief. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'll take a look above me, there are links to all my social media outlets. My Steam account is even up there, and I also have my Redbubble account up there where I sell ridiculous t-shirts that I've designed. Below that is the subscribe button for the channel. Make sure you click that. To my left, your right, are a couple of videos. It's the playthrough of Red Faction that I have just finished up. You can go check that out. Or below that is a link to a podcast I do with Michael B. the Game Genie and Mr. Dude 206. And it's a lot of fun. We really enjoy doing it. Trying to create a buzz about the podcast. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, remember to rate, comment, subscribe. As always, thanks for watching.